Star Trek Picard, Episode 1, my review and rant. So I must say I had a lot of different emotions run through me as I watched this first episode. From nostalgia to joy at certain moments, sadness at certain moments, to being annoyed and even disappointed in other regards. Let us proceed. So we begin with a dream sequence with Picard and Data and 10 Forward playing poker. The effects for the Enterprise, the music and ambiance I felt were very good, and they updated the graphics for the Enterprise while also keeping the original aesthetics and feel, without it being like Abrams' Apple TV store look that we got in 09, thank God. But that would have been hard to screw up considering all the work that was already done by the next generation. As they are discussing stuff, Data and Picard, the scene shifts to Mars, where Picard's like, "Oh shit, when did we get to Mars, Mr. Data?" Data is gone when Picard looks back at the seat, and he's by himself, and we see Mars explode from what looks like multiple bomb explosions, I guess 9/11. We also have an introduction to a young lady who is with her boyfriend, who is promptly killed by Romulans. And they try to kidnap her, but from their movements, you would think deep down they didn't want to. I mean, they wanted to knock her out, but they acted like they weren't in the 21st century. And they proceed to put a black rag mask, whatever the hell, I forget, my brain is dead right now, over her head. They wanted to do this before she, quote unquote, activated. And they took their sweet time, and as one of the assassins proceeded to try to knock her out, she activates and basically kills them all like a super ninja Alita battle angel style. Now, this was pretty impressive. I like the action scene, although again, this type of action scene feels, I don't know, it feels, without proper context, it just feels different. It feels like I'm watching something else other than Star Trek. Maybe if there's better context, better setup, if everything else surrounding the modern Star Trek that seemed to have crept into Picard, which makes sense because it's by the same people, and it's by the same regime with the same type of ideas about Trek, which we'll discuss a little bit later. But basically, going back to her beating up those people, those assassins, she kills them, and my God, this scene is just horrendous from a logical standpoint. I mean, if they can teleport in and try to kill her, why don't they just teleport her out if they needed her? They know where she was, and I'm assuming she didn't have any shields against the transporters. So, I mean, that wasn't made clear to me. So I wasn't sure why didn't they just teleport her out, and why put that black bag over her, or try to punch her or knock her out? That's. I mean, had they heard of using a hyperspray or whatever to, like, I don't know, drug her? Hell, transport her in some sleeping gas, for God's sake. So it's just, there's so many ways that they could have captured her that any intelligent person would have tried, and they just didn't. I mean, hell, like, this was very unintelligent, and by they, you know, I mean the writers. The writers were very unintelligent here. They decided that the intelligent thing to do was, and the more cool thing to do, I suppose, is to use physical combat and 20th century kidnapping techniques, and beaming in and giving her just enough time that she needs to activate. She then gets a flash of Picard after killing them or whatever, and this basically leads her to Picard. But before we get to that, let's go back to Picard. So we meet Picard 20 years after Nemesis. He's basically retired from Starfleet, and now he's handling his family's vineyard, which is strange because didn't we settle this in TNG, the episode Family, right after Best of Both Worlds, where basically he realized that he belonged out on the stars. You know, the vineyard wasn't for him. You know, it was for his brother. He settled his thing with his brother. They were cool, and he realized that as a captain, he belonged in a starship. He belonged in Starfleet. He belonged somewhere out there, exploring in some way. Hell, he even denied his second love, archaeology, to remain a Starfleet captain. Excuse me. And we know how much close that passion was for him. You know, being an archaeologist. You know, if he wasn't a captain, he would have been an archaeologist. That was his second passion. So that really bothered me. That aspect really bothered me. So we see him retire from Starfleet, and now he's handling his family's vineyard. He basically owns it, which is strange because he lives with two Romulans. I'm assuming they are related to him somehow from that failed rescue operation that we heard about in the promotions. We had that whole episode where the origin of the humanoid form was revealed as well. which again relates back to his archaeology. Anyways, they're living with two Romulans who tell Picard that some lady who looks like she's plucked straight from 2020. I mean, my God, some of the aesthetics in the show is so lazy. Wants to interview him, but won't ask about the synth attack on Mars, which is something Picard wants to avoid. Has some very bad memories for him. But of course, she does. In the course of the interview, I felt something. I felt when listening to Picard aspects of what Star Trek was versus what the Kareem regime wants Star Trek to be. This might have been accidental, by the way. In Picard's words, I saw the old philosophical and educated Upward Trek, and it also might have been Patrick's awesome performance as Picard. And in the interviewer, this black woman dressed like she's from 2020, I saw this TMZ, instant gratification, action, hoo-ha, no ethics or integrity lady looking for a scoop and an audience no matter what she has to betray. Kind of like Alex Kurtzman. Again, this is the feeling I got. Whether that's reality or not, I don't know. It's just a feeling, the contrast between when these two are speaking. I feel like she's straight from our time. But Picard, in this scene at the very least, is from the 24th century. You know, it's just this weird dichotomy where this show feels like it's from today, but it's supposed to be in the 24th century. I don't know. It's the first episode, so I'll give it some slack there. So we proceed to Picard chilling outside when that woman, her name is Daj, arrives, saying she knows him, and Picard proceeds to take her in. And the other two Romulans help him, and Picard talks to her. She explains what she had went through, and her name is Daj. But for now, both go to sleep to handle it in the morning. She disappears in the morning, and Picard proceeds to Starfleet archives in San Francisco to find out more, and discovers from his personal archive that no one has had access to that Data, 30 years ago, had created a painting of this woman and called it Daughter. Picard also had a copy in his vineyard, which is why he knew about to look for this, because it caught him off guard. And basically, this new chick was basically Data's daughter, we're assuming, but she was fully flesh and human, but with a positronic brain. And then a little bit later, right after the scene, Dash finds Picard with some fancy dancy android knowledge technique, hacking, whatever, and tells her who she is. She is like, basically, you're crazy. I'm not one of those killer androids. And Picard's like, but Dash, you are part of Data, and there are 4 lot. I mean, you have his best quality, or whatever. Then just assassins come out of nowhere and they run. And Dash is seemingly killed by Romulan venom. I guess, I don't know, they have venom now. Picard wakes up in his chateau and vows to find who was after Dash, and basically the mystery behind all this whole situation. That's been insane, and especially because she's tied to Data, and Picard definitely would not abandon that. And so he goes to the Daystrom Institute in Okinawa, Japan. Shout out to Okinawa, shout out to Japan. I hope they're still producing anime in the 24th century. And meets a doctor who says, her name is Agnes Jurati. Her name is Agnes Jurati, and apparently Maddox had recruited her to Starfleet, and we find out from her Maddox had disappeared after the synth banned by the Federation, and we find out the synths attacking Mars earlier came from them as well. They created the synths that attacked Mars. We don't know why they attacked Mars yet, which is why now they can't make any more synths. They can't make any more androids. They can only work on theories and write paper. Basically, it's abandoned. Like the Daystrom Institute is a shell of its former self. And Picard shows her the item that Dash earlier showed him in the chateau. A necklace, basically, with like 2 little circle thingamajigs crossing over. I guess it basically indicates that you have a twin. Basically, it's like a symbol for that. And Agnes, the doctor, recognizes this and said that when they made synths, they made them in pairs. And maybe whoever made her, she had a twin, right? And so this kind of brings us to the next step of the story. This revelation that even though Daj might be dead, she might have another sister. Now, of course, we also find out that her positronic Ned might have one piece of Data's a memory or a piece of his positronic network or whatever, because they said that making synths like her is impossible. If they had Data's full positronic net, yeah, it would be possible, but his positronic net was so advanced that they couldn't replicate anything like it. They made something, but it wasn't as advanced as Data. And if they had Data, they could make it right away, but without him, it would have taken them another 1,000 years, which kind of shows you how smart Dr. Noonien Soong was. I mean, my god. After all these years, they still can't make anything close to him. And it also shows you the specialty that Data had, like how special he was. And maybe he did have a soul. So we basically go, and right after this scene, this revelation, we meet Daj's twin sister talking to a Romulan, which in what appears to be a board queue. And then we see in the screen it says Romulan reclamation plant, and we suspensefully pull out to see the whole queue. And that's basically the end of the episode. It leaves us in that little suspense to see what's going to happen. And watching this, I felt sad. I felt nostalgic seeing Data and Picard. Patrick Stewart's performance was great, and I enjoyed this first episode regardless of its flaws. I did enjoy it, I won't lie. But aside from that, there were some glaring problems with this. And this is what I fear going forward, as it has been with most modern Trek. I mean, I dislike Discovery passionately. So my fears, I think, are well-founded considering the last couple years of Trek and the movies. They're saying this is canon, but at the same time, it's like, it seems to be part of the Kelvin timeline. It's just so, it's confusing. So, for example, I cannot believe that Jean-Luc Picard would ever just retire to the Vineyard when we settled that wasn't for him. At the very least, he would probably leave Starfleet, and if he left Starfleet, and he would probably go explore some ruins of some distant planet. I mean, the character of Jean-Luc Picard is not Patrick Stewart, but Jean-Luc Picard, who is not from our time, would never do this. I mean, I know Patrick Stewart wants to reflect and make commentary on current day stuff, but dude, why destroy a character like Picard to do it? You never should allow an actor to decide these creative decisions. An actor does not know why a franchise succeeds. For them, they want to do something that's dramatic and challenging, even if it goes against the core of the character, as long as it gives them that thing. They're theater actors. They want drama. They want to play Hamlet. They want to play Shakespeare. Star Trek is not Shakespeare. It's not like that. It's different. It's allegorical. It doesn't give you drama and hate and all this hi-fi action for the sake of those things, And I feel like Patrick Stewart doesn't realize that. And we see this with Insurrection, his influence on that. There's a great book by, I think, Michael Piller or something. I don't think it was published, but you could probably find it online, where he talks about Insurrection and reveals a lot. And we see this with Nemesis too. Actors should not have a say in these types of things. I think it's a tenuous endeavor. But at the same time, he probably wouldn't have come back if they didn't agree to this. So it's a tough situation. But anyways, Star Trek, as I was saying, is best when allegorical, not on the nose. Also, why is Starfleet isolationist? This makes zero sense. I mean, they're a federation, for God's sake. They can't be isolationist. Don't they have hundreds of species in their federation? And why are the Romulans enemies when the Dominion War saw them as allies becoming close? And in Nemesis, we had Picard save them from the Remans and Shinzon. Did the writers completely misunderstand Deep Space Nine? Did they not see old enemies coming together as allies against a common foe, persevering and trusting, which was the message in this situation? Why were the Romulans unable to win with their vast empire, unable to evacuate their own people? I'm sure they had thousands of ships to do that, and aren't they more than just one planet? We know from Section 31 on Deep Space Nine that the Klingons will be in no shape to pose any threat to the Federation after the Dominion War, and the only real threat after the Dominion War would be the Romulans, meaning they would be strong enough to be a threat to the Federation. And we know this has been the case since the Earth-Romulan War, which predates even meeting the Klingons. But we also know in Nemesis which direction that was headed in. Also, beyond the Vineyard, which was pretty gorgeous, and Enterprise, why does everything look like it's generic sci-fi? In this age where we have so much entertainment, so much good sci-fi, so much good shows, Star Trek can't afford to be like everyone else. They can't copy from everyone else. They have to be Star Trek. That's what made it unique. They have to cultivate their community, their fan base, keep that core audience, don't lose them, don't divide them. Go from there. Just because society wants to be unintelligent, dumbed down, low attention span, doesn't mean you need to cater to that. Star Trek is about countering that against all odds, and over time you will get new fans. You just have to be true to yourself. Anyways, it feels less Trek and more glassy. I don't know how to explain. It feels the aesthetic. It feels very classy. Yeah, that's just the word that comes to mind. Is this taking place in the 2009 movies versus the canon timeline? Because the storyline is based on what happened in 2009, like the Romulus being destroyed. That's all from 2009 movie. So there's just so many questions that need to be answered. This is the first episode, so I hope to God they make Picard less generic and plot holy and unintelligent science fiction. And I hope they make Star Trek upward again. I hope they make Star Trek allegorical again, and not really just rely on nostalgia, because that only goes so far. For me, this episode was a 6 out of 10 for me, and most of it's due to nostalgia, Picard, and Data. I really hope to God this succeeds. I really hope to God I enjoyed the rest of this series, because I really do. This is probably Patrick Stewart's last hoorah with the character, for better or for worse. Oh yeah, and what the hell happened to Lal? Wasn't that Data's daughter? Bring her back. Damn.